What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. I am still here in Oslo, Norway, and yes, I'm wearing a robe, and yes, I'm having a glass of wine. Myself and Mrs. Sessions are having a relaxing evening. We're going to go for a massage here, but I did want to bring you an episode of Why Are We Bullish? It's Friday. We got to make sure we stay bullish here. And I had a chance to have a couple great conversations with a couple different gentlemen while I've been here. You will see them in the episode, but with each of them, I got to have a little sit down and just have a little heart-to-heart chat about some of the stuff they are bullish about. So a little bit of a different spin on it this week. We don't have the panel, but we have kind of a couple different one-on-one convos. So either way, I'm sure you're going to enjoy them as much as I'm going to enjoy this glass of wine, this robe, and the massage I'm about to get. But thank you guys, of course, for being here. Make sure you do smash that like button, subscribe, share this wherever you can. And without further ado, I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Bitcoin Well is on a mission to enable independence by being one of the easiest and quickest ways to purchase Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And the best part about it, every buy goes directly into your own self-custody. They never hold your coins. You can add a Bitcoin address as part of onboarding. There's a transparent 1% spread, no hidden fees, no withdrawal fees, plus they have KYC free sells and bill payments on their website. They're also a publicly traded company under the ticker BTCW on the TSXV. Check them out over at bitcoinwell.com. Check out my full tutorial on how to use them, and you can check out the links in the show notes down below and sign up today. CoinKite.com has some of the best hardware on the market today to secure your Bitcoin. The Cold Card Q is an absolute powerhouse and is my daily driver. And on top of this, they have plenty of other goodies, including the Mark IV, the Tap Signer, Open Dimes, the Block Clock, and much more. If you head over to their website, make sure you use code BTC Sessions at checkout to get a nice discount. Links are in the show notes down below. We're here. We made it. We're in Oslo. How you doing, man?
Super good. Tired, but happy. I'm here with my wife and my 2-year-old daughter. Proof of work at the finest.
Yeah, exactly. Well, man, this is a different format for me, but we're doing Why Are We Bullish? And I'm just sitting down with people and finding out why they're so bullish. And I mean, you've been traveling the globe. You're all over.
I have, yeah, and I can say that that's a direct result of adopting Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset, you know, getting rid of all of my crappy inferior assets and plowing all into Bitcoin over the last many years has allowed me to be in a position where I can travel and be a part of this, I don't know, epic history-making revolutionary time in history.
Yeah, ditto for us. I mean, we've been on a Bitcoin standard for since 2020. I think we really, I mean, we've obviously, you know, and Lisa's the one that is filming right now. She's now my camera woman. But thank you very much. But we started just fully living on Bitcoin, figuring out ways around that. But it took time. But honestly, it puts you in a different mentality where it's like every time you're spending money, it's like you're taking away from your Bitcoin stack because it's not coming from, you don't really have a fiat stack. Everything is a conversion, and you're like, how much of this do I want to spend? And it's hard to get out of that fiat mentality of just like spend, and like, but that shift comes over time. Like I'm sure you felt it too, where it's like, I need to save more.
Yeah, I mean, having such a monumental economic incentive to be fiscally responsible is a special thing. At the same time, for me, from my perspective, one of the things that I've been grappling with more recently is I look to the world and I see so many people who spend their time like it's unlimited and their money like it's limited. And they do things that really stifles their life experience. They go to restaurants that are shitty and try in an attempt to save money. And one of the things that I've been leaning into more is my time is irreplaceable, but my money could be replaced.
Yeah.
So as like interesting as it is, like having this huge incentive to not spend the money, I'm actually becoming more okay with it to create life experiences that are absolutely irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And so one of the big things though is especially when there's so much, I don't know, divide globally and issues, power struggles in the world. One of the things that's really relieving for me is being able to travel and know that if we end up in some sort of pandemic lockdown or whatever, that I am not separate from my asset, which is a really special thing. It's, you know, there's this element of Bitcoin is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And so being in Oslo, living in the States, if something happened, if there was, I don't know, some sort of a terrorist event or some sort of viral breakout, that I can access funds. And that's a special thing. That's very empowering and liberating.
It's unique coming to all these events where, again, there's people from all over the world, but they all have a similar story where it's, I think, like you said, there's a recognition that, you know, the only thing more scarce than Bitcoin is your time. And who was I talking to recently where, my co-founder, Mike, Bitcoin Mentor, but he's like, you know, some of the mentality of like, don't do anything and just save Bitcoin and never ever spend. He's like, I kind of think that's a little bit of bullshit, because when you have a family, you want to actually share your time with your family, and you want to go and do things and have valuable experiences. And that's part of being places, but also having a low time preference with other things. And saving and spending less than you earn, saving in Bitcoin, it actually allows you to do things. It allows you to peel off some of your savings over time and have experiences. And I think that people that, again, are able to create value for others, spend less than they earn, and save in Bitcoin will actually be able to enjoy it more and more over time without depleting all of their savings. So that's been my experience over time.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, Jeff Booth I love his famous saying, where you have abundance in money, you create scarcity in everything. Where you have scarcity in money, you create abundance in everything. And I think based upon our technological limitations in the monetary instrument of gold and not having discovered true scarcity, it created this dynamic in the world where people have a scarcity mindset. And I have, over the last 6 months of my life, kind of broken out of that scarcity mindset. And I've become more okay with the idea of tapping in to my savings to create life experiences that are irreplaceable. And I think that's a special thing, and I'm seeing that become more of a common theme amongst the Bitcoin community. And so that's something that I'm bullish about and grateful for, creating life experiences that are irreplaceable as a direct result of doing the hard work and going down the economic rabbit hole and discovering the apex asset.
Yeah. It's almost like, you know, nowadays you hear of there's a dichotomy where, like, Gen Xers right now, because there's so little hope, you can't get a good job that pays you a living wage. The opportunities are few and further between. Most of them will never, you know, like, own a home or anything like that. And so you get into almost similar in that they're spending on experiences, but rather than like a hopeful, like I'm in a comfortable position so I can go and spend on those experiences, for them it's doom spending.
Total nihilism.
Yeah. It's just an acceptance of, I will never be able to build assets and savings, and so why don't I just spend every penny I earn on just having a good time? Whereas with Bitcoin, it's like, no, I'm gonna delay gratification a little bit, so then I can build a little bit of a nest egg, and then you become able to use that nest egg to have more consistent positive experiences and build a family and things like that. So it's like this total dichotomy of throwing in the towel versus waiting a little bit and then enjoying life?
Yeah, and having such a strong savings technology does create this element where you can hit escape velocity. And I was talking with a lot of other Bitcoin enthusiasts and plebs in El Salvador about this. And the amount of coins is going to go down. The amount of coins that you would need to create this escape velocity is going to go down and down and down and down. And so whether it's 1,000 coins, 100 coins, 10 coins, 1 coin, a tenth of a coin, at some point, the purchasing power in that coin is so great, and the appreciation in that purchasing power does create this dynamic where you can spend a certain percentage of that purchasing power and still get wealthier. You are diluting your stack, but you're increasing your purchasing power. And so, I don't know, if you use round numbers like $1 million, if you have $1 million worth of Bitcoin, even if that's a tenth of a coin at a $10 million coin, which someday I think we can all agree that reality will be here. And if the purchasing power is increasing at 20% a year annually, that's a $200,000 appreciation. If you spent $100,000 of that $200,000 appreciation, you're getting wealthier by 100 grand and accessing 100 grand worth of your wealth. And so as more and more people figure this out, and I think they will, as fiat currencies continue to debase at a faster and faster rate, the incentive to learn how to escape the pain that debasement creates increases, and that's going to drive more people into Bitcoin. As more people convert their inferior assets into Bitcoin, the more people are going to experience that escape velocity. And another thing that's really fascinating about that is it does create this global circular economy that so many of us want to see. And I think that the Trojan horse of like economic freedom and liberation is happening in the store of value asset just from the sheer appreciation. And additionally, I think what's so fascinating about the time that we live in now is seeing Bitcoin become a focal point within the presidential race. And like I'm watching on Twitter or X, all of the people who are in El Salvador right now watching Bukele get inaugurated for his second term. And so the whole world is starting to pay attention to what's happening, even if it's indirectly. There's so many people, you know, Tucker Carlson and Trump Jr. are there in El Salvador right now watching this country like be liberated from like the highest form of property violation that you could ever have between the gangs and the corrupt governments. And so I personally believe we're in the midst of hyper-Bitcoinization.
Yeah.
And it's happening. Like, 15 years ago, Satoshi released this freedom virus and this discovered scarcity. 15 years is not a long time. And to look at what's happened in the last 15 years is quite inspirational. It really is.
It makes me wonder, because again, you're talking about like, hey, if you've got X amount of Bitcoin and it's appreciating X amount per year, you can, capitalize on that and still be building your savings, which are exponentially more useful over time. What I wonder is, let's say the world, like whatever point in the future, the world gets to a point where we're just all on a Bitcoin standard. At that point, I wonder how that looks, like what that math works out as for the average person, because then it becomes almost like, right now we're measuring things in this in dollars, right? In a broken measuring stick. I wonder what that looks like for the average person. They put some money away. Are the rate of deflation, or the rate at which we can purchase and experience and enjoy our lives more over time. Jeff Booth talks about this all the time, where he's talking about like, we shouldn't measure inflation just by the stated numbers or whatever that we think the number actually is, but also by the expense of what we should have enjoyed in improved quality of life. Because if you have a base money that's just static, then we should be getting richer and having more abundance at a rate of the productivity and ingenuity of the people. Like, how much more stuff are we able to create with the same amount of effort because we become more efficient at it? And so like it becomes a function of almost like population growth and human ingenuity is your new track for deflation. and its effects.
Yeah, and gosh, and dude, for years since I listened to The Price of Tomorrow, thinking about all this stuff is so inverse to the way the world works now. It's really difficult. You have to wire new neural pathways to see it, and it is interesting. And I think that the global GDP on a Bitcoin standard is measured in a negative number, and that increase in purchasing power spread amongst the monetary network is a direct correlation to the productivity gains within the marketplace. And I love how Booth says that free markets are fundamentally deflationary, because human ingenuity and technological advancement allow us to produce more for less. You know, as an example, I was in Amsterdam and we went to dinner. My family and I went to dinner with a friend, Bram. He's got a podcast, Bitcoin for Millennials.
Yes.
And we were chatting, and he's like, you know, when I'm talking to people about Bitcoin, he goes, I'll mention like, hey, you know, however many years ago, a loaf of bread was 5 cents. Now it's $5. What happened? He goes, you know, we make bread much more efficiently. It should be practically free. And what's the issue there? Well, it's that we have an inflationary monetary system where the monetary units are lent into existence as debt against assets. So that means that the dollar or whatever currency denominated value of those assets has to increase. Otherwise, the debt becomes insolvent. So those are two fundamental opposing forces.
It looks like we're getting. Thank you.
Total raw in the midst of experiencing Oslo and the beautiful food.
We're gonna get called out on having carbs.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, I mean, I think this is as good a time as any to do a little round out, and I don't know, what are you most looking forward to in the coming year in and around the Bitcoin space? Where do you think we kind of end the year in terms of, like, you know, the news cycle, the idea of Bitcoin in the mainstream media? Like, we've seen it come front and center. You're talking about it's now a presidential election issue. Where do you think that this year takes us from here?
Yeah, that's a very expansive question. And I would say that we are going to see a lot more of the most influential, powerful, wealthy people bring attention to Bitcoin, adopt Bitcoin as a savings technology. I think that we're going to see more politicians and more governments capitulate into this, you know, new monetary technology and the new rule set that it enforces upon our civilization. I think that we're going to see some more FUD, and from one perspective, as disappointing as that is, it's also another opportunity to get some Bitcoin on sale. The fact that we got the Ethereum ETF coming in the States does mean that if you're a productive market participant and you're capable of earning more than what you need to live, you have an opportunity for the next several years to buy Bitcoin at a less expensive price than really what it should be. It's undervalued tremendously. And so if you're productive and you have the ability to purchase Bitcoin, as unfortunate as you could say it is from one perspective that we have all of this nonsense taking place, it is an opportunity to buy Bitcoin. If you're in the know, you're in the know, and that's a special thing. You know, another thing that we're going to see is just more and more people, as things get more challenging economically, are going to be pushed to figure out what's a way to escape that. And so, yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit of both extremes. But as they say, all roads lead to Bitcoin, and everything's good for Bitcoin, even if it doesn't seem like it in the moment. Enjoy the distractions. Use it as an opportunity to stack a few extra sats, I guess. Totally. Well, cheers, man. I think it's time to eat. So yes, it is. We're all a little tired from traveling. I will say also, I have so much respect for all of the people who travel the globe to talk about Bitcoin, because it is not easy traveling. I will say that. Oh my goodness. The family travel, especially with little ones. We've gone through the gamut, and you're going through it now. So yes, I'm. You know, you can't make more Bitcoin, but you can make more Bitcoiners. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, dude, thank you. And thank you. Let's eat. Peace. DEBIFI.com allows you to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way.
Collateral is held in a 3 of 4 distributed multisig with trusted parties. It provides institutional liquidity providers loan periods of up to 5 years with flexible conditions and the best rates. And best of all, no rehypothecation of your funds. If you want to check them out today, head over to DEBIFI.com or hit the link in the show notes down below.
Hey man, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Well, let's do a little intro. Who are you? What do you do?
So my name is Markle. I work for Bitcoin Magazine, the Bitcoin conference team. Run the Bit Devs down in Puerto Rico, and I feel like I'm fairly new to Bitcoin. Heard about it for a long time, but really started taking it serious in like 2020 around COVID.
I think that was a turning point for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I think I never got into any of the other crypto stuff. I honestly hate that word. It was just it was so obvious to me so early. Yeah, and here we are now.
What pushed you in that direction? Like, what was there like material out there that helped you kind of hone in on that? Was there, because that's a relatively new phenomenon where people are like, they get quickly to Bitcoin only. It's like, what pushed you in that direction?
So the first time I heard about it was around 2014. I was in college, and my roommates were interacting with it, but they were all idiots. So I was like, these guys have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And then I was graduated college, was working in aerospace, had a boss that I really respected, and his son was mining it in like 2013, something young, his 13-year-old son. And then his son came to him and said, "Dad, there's this decentralized currency," and his dad was like, "That would never work," and shrugged it off. And then his dad realized he was wrong, and I thought that's got to be pretty cool, especially coming from your son, like realizing your 13-year-old son's right and you were wrong. So like, I think the people in my life at that time that put me onto Bitcoin, I really respected. So that put a lot of like validity to it.
That's cool. I like that. Well, so we're here in Oslo. We've been checking out the Freedom Forum past few days, wrapped up the other day. And there's been a lot of amazing stuff here. Is there anything that stood out to you, like that really was impact? I mean, everything's been impactful, but like, what were some of the highlights that you really liked?
I think what I was telling you earlier, just I run a local meetup, and I don't want to name the individual, but I've been running the meetup for about a year, and he had came to one randomly and didn't really know who he was. I even described to you a little bit of what he looks like. Never judge a book by its cover. Anyways, he was here at Oslo, and him and Nifty were sitting down in the corner having a crazy in-depth discussion, and just being able to be there, and really it was like a live show. So there was that, and then the third day in the Bitcoin room, I was like, all right, I gotta go. I'm gonna leave now. And then like the next panel came on, there was just the lineup that they had and the discussions that were being had. It was awesome.
You know, okay, so the one talk that I saw in particularly on the financial freedom track on the third day. So anybody unfamiliar, basically there's kind of two first days where there's like a big main stage and there's like all the big talks. And then on the third day, there's more kind of like an interactive day where you can kind of choose what you go and listen to and everything. And so the financial freedom track was during this day, and that's all the Bitcoin related content. The one that I saw that kind of surprised me was there's this girl named Farida. I don't know if you saw her, but she's from Togo. And so she lives in the CFA franc zone, and so this is a group of African countries where their currencies are created by France. They're all CFA francs, and none of them interoperate. So like one currency from one place even though it's created by France, you can't spend it in the other countries, and it's like illegal to use them elsewhere. It's totally worthless outside of their jurisdiction, hard to convert to outside currencies. It's just like a nightmare. And on top of that, France can devalue them at will. Like overnight, they can be like, your currency is worth half as much as it was before. And it's just, it's a nightmare to navigate. And she was talking about how she was on a plane to a neighboring country and she collapsed on the plane. And then when she got there, she woke up, she was like in the hospital and she needed an emergency surgery. He said, okay, we're going to do the surgery. And they brought her into the room and she's basically sitting on the table for like 30 minutes or something. And she's like, why did you guys bring me in here if you weren't ready? And they're like, she had put down a card with her friend to pay. And they were like, oh no, you haven't paid for your surgery yet. So we're just waiting. And she just kept on waiting and waiting. And like they weren't able to pay because it was like $4,000 worth, but nobody had that much cash. And like the card and everything wasn't interoperable between countries. There was just no way to pay. And she basically begged the doctor. She was like, don't let me die on this table, please. I will find the money. I can get the money. It's just, I'm from Togo, like I can't. And so they started to proceed. They put her under, and then she woke up later on by herself on like a gurney in a hallway with an envelope on her chest. She opened it up and it says, we've stopped your treatment and will only continue once you've made this payment in full. And it was a bill. So they basically just stopped her surgery and were like, nah, and like left her in a hallway by herself to just like wake up later and maybe survive. And it was only once her friend managed to get like, I think 10 people to all max out whatever cards or whatever they had locally to pool their funds together. But like just the idea that for nothing other than the fact that her money just wasn't interoperable from country to country. And so like her point was, for me, the most important part about Bitcoin is that it's borderless and that you can get money from place to place and you don't have to rely on anybody to do that. It was like, you must have had moments like this where you're listening to these talks and it's just unreal.
Yeah, the power of just understanding like settlement times too. Yeah. And like, especially it's frustrating if it's like you have the funds, but the system's not interoperable and like your life's literally dependent on it. Wow. Yeah. Another talk that stood out to me is a lady named Dulce, who she runs Libreria de Satoshi, which is Library of Satoshi. But she was giving a speech, which really spoke to me personally because I live in Puerto Rico. And the main reason why I moved down there was because I wanted to learn a second language, and Spanish is the second language that I've chosen. And I typically stay away from, just because a lot of the Bitcoiners that I really respect in the space, that I think that I really look up to, and a lot of them are even younger than me in age, they stay away from the stage in a lot of ways. And I thought it was pretty powerful what she was saying, because she was giving a speech yesterday in English, and English is not her first language. And she started to get very emotional because I think Bitcoin was like that tool that really propelled her to learn English. And she was, really proud of herself giving this speech in English to all of us. And it was a very stacked room. And I've always told myself, like, if I were to give a speech in Bitcoin, I think I would want to do it in Spanish. And I wouldn't say my Spanish is to the level to where I'm comfortable to just get on a stage somewhere in Latin America and start spewing stuff off. But I loved her point about the KISS method, because I come from aerospace, keep it simple, stupid. And a lot of prominent engineers over the years always kept that mentality, or not even a mentality, just use that practice. And she was saying that when she was trying to explain stuff, and I'm like, I love it. So when I get back to Puerto Rico, I'll probably go through the Mi Primer Bitcoin textbook. Nice. and start revisiting some topics that I think I know already, but maybe learn it in a different language.
That's really cool. Yeah. So I mean, I'm on the road here, kind of doing why are we bullish on the fly. And so the obvious question that I do want to ask is there anything that you're super bullish on? Is there something in and around Bitcoin that you're currently excited about? Obviously, we did the whole Oslo Freedom Forum, maybe something around that, but maybe something external to that. What's pulling your attention right now? What are you bullish on? What are you excited about?
Man, I'm most bullish on the people. So I've spent the past month on the road. We had our Hong Kong conference. So it was interesting seeing the mindset of Bitcoin in that part of the world, which is very different from the Western part of the world where I'm from. And then I spent some time in Turkey and Istanbul and also in Barcelona and just meeting the Bitcoiners there. And yeah, I would say I'm most bullish on the people. And then obviously I'm very bullish on a lot of the free open source stuff happening. I spent my whole career in engineering, not necessarily computer, but the term of free open source software didn't really start coming around until I got into Bitcoin. And at the end of the day, like I kind of look at Bitcoin as a tool. Like I was a mechanical engineer, I worked on my car. And if you don't have the right tools, like something that's easy is a lot harder. And Bitcoin, I think, is a tool, and free open source software is just like another bucket of tools within this tool. And yeah, I'm really bullish on a lot of the projects that are happening.
You guys were doing, I think you were saying that you were doing some stuff with like the BTC Pay server stuff and some of the integrations, like the point of sale. So what was that?
Yeah, so I think as an industry, if we don't achieve medium of exchange, we fail. And because Bitcoin is just so much more than digital gold or immutable data. Whatever.
I echo you there. Like I think the way that Bitcoin succeeds is, yes, of course you want savings technology, but I think if it becomes nothing more than that, then it's, what is that, just real estate 2.0? Like, no, I want more than that, I think.
And I've noticed, like, for me, what I enjoy, or at least like the niche that I've found in Bitcoin that's interesting to me, and I think is kind of untapped, is something about, like, ultimately BTC Pay is self-custodial. I say self-custodial payment processing, which we've never had in the history of humanity unless you were running an all-cash business. And there's a lot of power with all-cash businesses for a multitude of reasons, but there's a lot of risk because, one, you're limiting your reach, like, because you can't do digital online cash until Bitcoin. And then you have like all this risk of capital in one place. So you have like all this risk of theft and counterfeit. So I have this like weird like obsession recently with how do we replicate a cash payment digitally, but it still has to have a physical sense to it. So in Hong Kong, we had a lot of distractions going on with some of these other projects. But I thought it was really important to do Bitcoin as the medium of exchange. And yeah, we used BTC Pay because it's a powerful point of sale that's free for anybody to use in the world. And then we used Bolt cards because somebody didn't have Bitcoin. Like it's not as easy as it looks to just download an app and agree to all these terms and services and then load the app where I could, I was literally just taking cash and throwing it on a Bolt card and handing them the Bolt card. And they could go spend it throughout the conference. So that was a really cool project.
You brought me, and I'm seeing if I can grab it out right now. You brought me, I know I'm out off camera right now, but that Bolt card with Rockstar on the front of it, which is kind of sweet. Yeah, shout out Rockstar. We actually got to hang out with him a little bit. The lovely Mrs. Sessions is grabbing it off screen right now. But we got.
Be able to.
The
laser eyes on it should be lighting.
Nice, laser eyes lighting up. But these are sweet, and they just announced there's an update to BTC Pay server. I covered it on the show the other day for news for tech updates. But these like Bitcoinized point of sale machines now, straight from BTC Pay. You can like create and issue these cards as well as accept them at the terminals. So it's like you've got this all-in-one solution where like somebody could come up with cash and literally like tap and load a card and like pay to load up their Bolt card and then go around and spend them like at conferences. We saw a little bit of this in Madeira as well. They were using the Bitcoinized POS machines and they were letting people do these cards. Super slick. I think it merits, and perhaps you'll agree, I think it merits a tutorial on how to do this.
Yeah, shout out to, I saw it first at the Baltic Honey Badger conference, so shout out to that whole team. yeah, I would love for our conferences moving forward to just eliminate fiat, and really have like a case study of a hyper-Bitcoinized world and what you can do with that. There's a lot of stuff that I know we can do. We could talk about, or but yeah, like I said, the shout out to the HODLHODL team. Shout out to BTC Pay, all of them. It's a great project.
Max, Anna, Pioneers.
Shout out.
Yeah. No, it's, you know, I would love to see an event in the future where you go to the Bitcoin event and, and there's no fiat whatsoever. And you have easy onboarding where it's like, oh, are you going to want to spend at any of the booths or anything? Cool, come up, we'll load a card for you. And maybe even at the end of the day, like those that do want fiat back, they can tap their card, pay what's left, and get some fiat back. But like, I just love the idea of having like a full circular, like nobody's spending anything but Bitcoin at one of these events. And that would be, you know, I know that it's, for event organizers and things like that, it can be probably worrisome because it's like, oh, what if people spend less money or anything? But I'm also, to set a precedent would be pretty wild. And I feel like there'd be actually a decent amount of support around that. Like, I feel like people would rally around that. I think.
You know, it's interesting, from Hong Kong, yeah, like the mentality for why they use Bitcoin is like, we'll degenerate gamble at any cost to get more Bitcoin. So it was really cool to, somebody give me Hong Kong dollars. I gave them the Bolt card to buy something in the store. And then just seeing the laser eyes, and like, to me, it's like, oh, it's just like any other transaction. But to them, it was so cool that they ended up buying another item because they wanted to see that.
That's cool.
So I'm like, would we actually do more volume? So it's, we won't know unless we try. So, and we do a lot of, at the end of the day, like, we're all in Bitcoin together to push this greater mission. So like, we do a ton of, like, I don't even like to call them like sponsorships, or like, I like to call it collaborating, to be honest. And what's really cool when you start using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, like, it eliminates the trust of collaboration when it comes to like making sure you get paid. So I'll give you like an example. Like, we have a conference store, and we collaborate with a lot of artists that typically never have money to do anything, but they put out great work. And so we're like, okay, well, if you want to design the t-shirt, we'll produce it for you, and we'll do some type of split. And in the past, that's always been a challenge because you have to like wait until after, and then somebody's got to go through all the transactions and see what was happening. But now, like, if you do like a BTC Pay, it's not even BTC Pay, but you just do a Bitcoin payment and do a Prism payment, you can split that payment across like 10 different wallets. So you could do like, you could do a million things. Like, you could, for a crazy example would be like, you buy a coffee and for $2, and like, you could do a Prism payment where like $1 goes back into the business, 25 cents goes to the person that sold it, because like, I want, as the worker, to be incentivized to sell more coffees. 25 cents can go to the owner because he put up the capital and needs to be paid back on his whatever. I mean, it eliminates the trust to make sure people get paid, and there's no, like, it's happening at the point of sale. So it's like the artist, so like the artists or whoever you're collaborating with, if you're doing a split, like, they're getting streamed the money right then and there. And it's like, dude, that just makes me think, like, how do you approach compensation going forward? Because it's like, you would negotiate a salary and it's expected like 80 hours, but it's like, if you're getting streamed money live for the work that you do, like, what does the future of compensation look like? It's crazy.
Yeah, or again, results based, right? Like, somebody, for every item sold, like you said, just boom, instant split. It takes all of the logistics out of anything. It's just like out the gate, like, here's the payment gateway, and here's where the money goes. And as long as you guys do the shaking hands beforehand, all right, this is where it's going. There's no argument then. It's just like encoded into the way that the payment is received. No, that's super awesome, and I love that idea, and it opens up all of these worlds of possibility, even like for content creators, you know, like we're seeing a little bit of that with like streaming and podcasting 2.0 and all that, being able to split between guests. And yeah, I think it's a very interesting world we're living in. I think the world is perhaps not, and when I say the world, I mean like, say the powers that be aren't prepared for that level.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Welcome.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. They're not prepared for that level of granularity and control that has been bestowed upon, you know, their constituents, and that's great. I love it. And like, how, if you think about it, how the fuck do you even begin to get a handle on people peer-to-peer sending 20 sats a minute to somebody who's podcasting and splitting that with somebody in Hong Kong and America and Vietnam and Australia? You know, like, how do you begin to like get a handle on that? It's just, yeah.
If I could go back in time, like, you know, I hope it happens in my lifetime. I think it will. It will happen. I just hope it's in my lifetime. Like, you know, you think of like, what was that period like where government and church were the same thing, right? And then it gets separated, it causes the Great Enlightenment. Like, what were the conversations at that time when probably the general public starts to realize kind of like, hey, like, you know, we need to separate this. So now, but it's like, I think we're going to achieve separation of money and state. It always bums me out when I have these innovative conversations with people and then they try to be like, well, taxes and laws. And I'm like, this is not why I'm in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, exactly. It's to me, it's the same type of argument as, you know, like pre-separation of church and state. It's like, well, yeah, but we've got to, you know, we've got to pay the church and we've got to do all these, you know, we've got to make sure that we do, you know, it's kind of like, well, I mean, the whole point is to kind of remove those things and take away that power structure and give people more independence and control over their lives. And it, you know, the separation of church and state did that. The separation of money and state is going to do that a whole hell of a lot more, right? Yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction. We've got a little bit of a, diminishing it a lot, got a little bit of a fight ahead of us probably, but oddly enough, I think that at least for the next little bit, we may have a bit of runway to build. I thought it was going the opposite direction. We saw some crackdowns and some craziness in and around, you know, like CoinJoin, all of that, but it's an election issue now. I think that we probably end up getting like at least a 4-year runway to kind of quickly build out a bunch of shit to make it more resilient. But I hope we don't squander that time. I hope that the builders get building. If they do, I'll try and help people understand how to use the stuff. But we'll say, are you optimistic, you know, that we'll get a little bit of runway and kind of get ahead of things?
Extremely optimistic. That's actually something Rockstar was like, I respect that in a lot of ways of you. I don't know if it's because I'm from the Midwest, which is like the Rust Belt, like just like every day is kind of bleak and you have no choice. But I don't know. I think we're past the point. Like I would like to think it's bigger than elections at this point. I would like to think human intervention really has no say. Ultimately, yeah, you do live within the jurisdiction of like, you know, whatever body of law, and you don't want to be thrown in jail by any means. And I don't encourage people to break the law, but we also have a lot of places that are really starting to embrace and see what's actually happening. Places like El Salvador and stuff like that. Yeah, at the end of the day, you just have to keep building. And if anything, it's good to, you know, I've always respected people that presented a lot of bearish cases for Bitcoin, because I remember my mom, who's not orange pilled, she'd always be like, well, what's a bearish case? And I'm just like, there's no bearish case. There's no second best. It's game theory. And it's like, that seems a little bit foolish to think about in the future, because there's always something that could happen. And I think we're just accelerating a lot of that now. Because again, I want this to happen in my lifetime, and I'm 32. So
yeah,
let's get to building and innovate.
I mean, I think that's a good place to put a bow on it. Some optimism for the future. I think, again, I like the idea that human intervention at this point is having a diminishing effect. You know, people can make our lives a little bit harder, can try and crack down, but at the end of the day, like, this is something that kind of transcends all of us, and I don't see any reason that it doesn't continue to exist and proliferate and flourish well into the future. And hopefully we get to be the beneficiaries of some of that, as well as our kids and grandkids.
For sure. One last thing, I believe you should never sell your Bitcoin, but you should spend it. That just helps with a lot of trying to achieve a medium of exchange status, helps with allowing for data to help like build stuff for the future. So don't sell your Bitcoin, but you should definitely spend it. And one last thing I want to say is, like, what are you bullish about?
I'm bullish on, we've been doing a sat market in Calgary. We've been trying to bootstrap a little bit of a circular economy. So just to your same point, we've been trying to build that out. We've had a couple so far. We got another one coming up at the beginning of July, just before we're doing a small event in Calgary as well. But I'm bullish on the idea that I can begin to get everything that I need with Bitcoin, and not by jumping through hoops. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. I can get beef, I can get, eggs and chicken and all that kind of stuff. The old barber trope, my barber is now in. He's coming to the sat market next time. He's going to be doing cuts down at the venue. So yeah, I'm bullish on the idea that people can take initiative themselves and build the world that they want to see. And, having that realization of like, oh, I guess that is a good piece of advice. Maybe I should just go build the thing I want to see. And people were more than happy to jump on board. And I think a lot of people just don't have that realization, like, if not you, then who? So go do it. Go build out that circular economy. Go ask, start with the local Bitcoiners and then build out from there. It does work. And so I'm bullish on that. And I hope to see a lot more of it.
That brings up such a good point, because I would say the catalyst moment that really propelled my career in Bitcoin, because it wasn't easy. Like, I took a long time until I finally was able to get a good job in Bitcoin, was starting the local meetup. I live in Puerto Rico, starting a Bitcoin focused, really a technically focused Bitcoin meetup. And I truly do believe it's a bottoms up approach when it comes to this stuff, and just leading by example in your neighborhood. And like, people are just going to gravitate towards that if you lead by example. And it's a lot of like monkey see, monkey do. If they see you doing it, then next thing you know, they're going to want to be a part of it. So I love that. Yeah. It's not something that gets solved tomorrow, but just lead by example and really start in your local neighborhood. And like, next thing you know, you'll have 10 merchants accepting Bitcoin. That's crazy. Like,
yeah, I agree. And I'll let you know how the next one goes. I hope to see a lot more of them, but yeah, man, thanks for hanging out with me here in Oslo.
Thank you, man. This was fun.
It was a good time, and see you at the next one.
See you around.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please do hit like, subscribe, share, all those things. They help a ton getting this content in front of more eyeballs. Of course, both gentlemen, their handles are in the show notes down below, so give them a follow. And of course, if you need any help, you're sorting through some of the tutorials on the channel and it's not quite scratching that itch, maybe you need a little bit more hand holding, head over to bitcoinmentor.io, where I have aggregated an absolutely amazing team of Bitcoin educators. They can help you through everything you need, whether it be wallets, hardware, multisig, running a node, lightning, anything. You can reach out to them. Again, amazing quality education. You can do your one-on-one educational sessions with them. With that, I'm out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening wherever you may be. I'll see you guys next time for your daily session.
Bitcoin.